So I'm going to go ahead and get started and go ahead and start presenting on grant writing readiness. So I hope that you are ready for the opportunity to be able to ask questions in the chat. I can actually see them because I'm looking at my cell phone. But yes, so my name is Alana Allen. And I'm also a nonprofit leader and I'm also a grant writer. So just want to be able to give you the opportunity um, to pretty much learn a little bit about how to get started and how to write your grants. All right. So, and like I said, I have been doing nonprofit leadership for 17 years. I have been in the journalism and mass communications industry for 18 years. For 6 years, I have been writing and teaching grant writing. I'm the founder of I Am a Queen. I'm also I'm also the owner of Faith and Funding Consultant. So I'm a nonprofit and grant writing strategist. And then I'm also a member of the Grants Professional Association. So when we look at my track record is so far in grant funding, I have secured $488,000 in grant funding. Okay. So I would love for the people on YouTube to introduce yourself. So I'm going to type it in the chat. Introduce yourself, the nonprofit. So I would love for everyone to introduce themselves the same way I introduce myself, who you are, who are you representing as well. So Faith and Funding Blueprint. I believe in getting to the point. I believe in getting to the point. I also believe in wanting to see you win. And faith and prayer are the foundation of everything that I do. And then the focus is always going to be grant readiness for tonight. Okay. So, affirmation: I lack nothing. I lack nothing. I want you to put that in the chat. I lack nothing, because this is an affirmation that you have to understand, that you have to pretty much gain within yourself and understand at the end of the day. You lack nothing. And when you lack nothing, nothing will be withheld from you. So I want you to drop in the chat. I want you to, of course, introduce yourself, but I want you to affirm that you lack nothing. Okay. And then next, when it comes down to being grant ready, you have to remember, be ye ready. Be ye ready. Okay, good. We got somebody in the chat. We got somebody that says, I'm with Legacy of Hope. Thank you so much for chiming in. So one thing about me, Faith and Funny, be ye ready represents the season, the preparation that you put into learning about grants and preparing yourself to apply for funding. So there's a myth. If I can find a grant, I can get funded, which means you feel like at the end of the day, you feel like just because you see this grant, you're going to get it. No, that's not the case. That's not the case. The case is, if your organization is prepared, you have a better chance of being funded. Okay, we got some people in the chat. I feel grateful, y'all. So we have Shantae Faulkner. She says she's newly opened executive director of Eagles Landing Christian Counseling Center. She's been established since 2005 and she lacks nothing. All right, great job. So be ye ready. So what is grant readiness? Grant readiness is the ability of an organization to successfully apply for, manage, and report on grant funding. That means that you got to get ready. That means that you got to do something about it. You got to apply for it. Then once you receive it, are you ready to receive the money? Do you have the capacity to manage this money? Because if a funder says, hey, what could you do with $100,000 right now? I'm gonna put that in the chat. What could you do with $100,000? Okay, $100,000 right now for your organization. Now I know we want that in our money and our finances. Okay, I'm putting this right now in the chat. What could you do with $100,000 right now for your organization? What could you do? Okay. What could you do? What could you fund? That's what you got to start thinking about. What could you fund with $100,000 that somebody said, and we give it to you? Because here's the thing: $100,000 is not easy to manage. $100,000, you might say, "Hey, I'm the only person in this organization that I trust." You may not have a good relationship with your board. You may not feel comfortable working with a treasurer. So you have to understand. You have to understand at the end of the day. At the end of the day. At the end of the day, do you have the capacity? Do you have the capacity to receive the money and manage this money? Okay. Also, you want to make sure that when you have to remember, funders don't invest in ideas alone. They invest in organizations that can deliver results. That's what they invest in. Okay. That's what they're investing in. All right. So we're gonna keep moving forward. All right. So before we get started, okay, I see some people coming in on Zoom. All right. So before we get started, we have to realize at the end of the day, you need to understand, what does it mean to be grant ready? Okay, so my peeps on YouTube, hello, my people that just joined on Zoom. I have more people coming in, but what you have to do before you get started, you have to understand, do you have a 501c3? Has the organization that you founded, is it 501c3 ready? Do you have a tax ID number? Do you have the social media information? And for my people who just joined on Zoom, I want you to introduce yourself in the chat. We have people on YouTube that's chatting, that's chiming in. So I want you to introduce yourself. If you started a nonprofit, if you haven't started a nonprofit but you're thinking about it, I want you to introduce yourself in the chat, and I greatly appreciate that. But I'm gonna keep moving. You also have to have a mission statement. Your mission statement is very important to the work that you're doing. It lets us know what's going on. It lets us know, like, hey, this is exactly what this organization is setting out to do. All right. You also got to understand your fiscal year. Your fiscal year is so important. You have to understand, does your fiscal year end June 30th? Does it end December 31st? When is your fiscal year? Okay. Then you have to understand, what is your annual operating budget? Do you have a budget? Do you know how much it's going to cost for you to do this work? And then the programs offered, what exactly are you going to be doing? Okay. And then who are the clients that you're serving? And do you have a marketing plan? So Sabrina says, here on behalf of the nonprofit that she's a part of. Great. Okay, we got 3 more people in this chat on Zoom. So introduce yourself, and we have 8 people on YouTube. All right. So 5 pillars of grant readiness. You got to know your mission and your programs. You got to know your leadership and your board. You also have to understand your financial readiness and your data and outcomes and your fundraising strategy. All right. So mission and programs. Can you clearly explain who you serve? Do you know what problems you're solving? Do you know how your programs work? Or the programs that you are currently working on, do you know how they work? What results are you trying to achieve? If not, you're not grant ready, because you're pretty much, you don't know how to explain the work that you're doing and what's important. Okay. So you got to be able to answer these questions. You got to be able to answer these questions, because this is so important to the work that you're doing. All right. So answer this in the chat. What problems are you solving in your community? Are you doing mentoring? Are you working with teens? Are you doing, let me see what else, working with women? What are you doing? Like, what kind of problems are you solving in your community? So I'm going to give you a moment to answer that. Problems are you solving So I asked a question earlier. I said, what would you do with $100,000 for the organizations, for the organization that you serve? And let me see. Little Shawnee says, with $100,000, we will be able to serve more of the community and mentor more young girls. That's awesome. Okay. All right. Let me see what else. So drop in the chat, what problems are you solving in your community? Are you helping with hunger relief? Are you helping with disasters? Teresa, she's here. Okay, Teresa, so you're here on behalf of a nonprofit. So what problems are y'all solving in the community? So think about that. What problems are you solving? Okay. Have some people texting me saying they can't get into Zoom. But I'm gonna have to keep moving forward. All right. So going to keep moving forward. But if you could just drop in the chat, what problems are you solving? Okay. All right. Because at the end of the day, nonprofit leaders are problem solvers. We solve problems in our communities. We look at the data, we look at the resources out there, and we say, we have identified a problem, we have identified an issue. And you have to understand, as a nonprofit leader, you are always going to be thinking about, how can I solve this problem? How can we develop a program that's going to be a problem solver? So when we think about what is a nonprofit program, this is something that you have to develop in order for you, or in order for the nonprofit to be funded. So a nonprofit program it's really a set of resources and activities geared together to provide a service and to accomplish a certain goal. Okay. So, oh, we have somebody in here. They said we will be able to provide and reduce counseling for approximately 100 people dealing with depression, childhood trauma, anxiety, and bullying. That is so good and so direct and straight to the point. I love that. So I love that. That's really good. Okay. So when you think about a program is something that is ongoing. It's ongoing. It produces results. What results are you trying to get at the end? Okay. Teresa says we are working with veterans with mental health issues. Now, I'm going to say that is so needed and that is so critical. Okay. Teresa, Miss Allen is on Zoom with me. Good. Your program relates to your mission statement. Your program has to go back to the mission. It has to align everything you do. So, for example, if you're a culinary arts nonprofit, why are you trying to save the dolphins? What are you doing? You are here to do culinary arts, particularly with young teens who have an interest in learning how to be a chef. Why are you changing the activities that you're currently doing? So you got to understand that everything goes back to the mission when it comes down to the program. All right. So your program is the solution to the problem. So you have identified a problem in your community, and then now you're going to develop a program that's going to solve this problem. And you're going to keep evaluating this program to see, are you being successful? Is the work that we're doing, is it working? Is it immediate? Is it necessary? Okay. So leadership and board, you have to have an active board. Just because your cousin joined your board, just because your cousin joined the board, just because you put your husband on there, or however you want to put it, you have to understand, at the end of the day, it is so important for you to have an active board that wants to donate, that wants to give back, that wants to contribute. Okay. You have to understand that your board is necessary, and also their network, the people that they're connected to. So you also want to make sure, like I said, your board is giving, and you want 100% right when they are giving. You also want to make sure in your board meetings that you are talking about the programs. You're talking about how can things be improved and what changes can you make. And then looking at a strategic direction. Where are we going in the next 3 years? What's the vision? What's the plan? Okay. And then community connections. How can sometimes it's not even about money. Sometimes it's about who are you connected to that's going to help you to push this nonprofit forward. Amen. All right. So funders look at the leadership. So financial readiness is the next one. Your tax ID number is the EIN of the nonprofit organization. So whenever you decided that you were going to start the organization, you file for an EIN, which is also the tax ID number. The 501c3 is just the tax status. That just lets us know, like, hey, you are tax exempt. That means that when donors donate to you or a funder, their donations are deductible when they file their taxes. All right. You have a budget. You understand your current and your past years. And it's to your numbers. That's really key. If you are brand new, it is very crucial for you to do a projected budget, for you to look ahead with the numbers, to project. Work with a financial person. You also need financial statements and audits. I will sit here and encourage you. That is the most important thing that you can do to show that you are ready to manage the money. You need a bank account. You will be surprised at the number of people who only have Cash App, and that Cash App is going to their own personal bank accounts. So you need to have a bank account that is for the nonprofit, that's for the business. And the 990 form. You need to be filing your 990 every year, because a lot of times funders will not fund you if you have not filed the 990, and you need to be able to keep copies of it, even if it's the 990 and postcard. Okay. All right, we got some new people in the chat on YouTube, so I want you to introduce yourself so we can know who's all here. All right, data and outcomes. So how do you know if there is a problem in your community that needs to be solved? Have you done the research? Do you have the resources, the sources that can prove that there is a serious problem happening right now? Because that's going to be your statement of need. That's going to be your needs assessment. How many people do you serve? How many people can you potentially serve? Okay. What strategic goals have you set for the organization to achieve? Meaning, do you want to serve at least 20 new people? Do you want to increase to a certain way? So it's really important. It's really important that you understand your goals, you understand where you're heading. And then you have to understand what changed because of your programs. What is the impact that you're making? Did something happen? Did something shift when you showed up on the scene? Did something happen and people started learning, people started getting jobs, people started getting housing, people started getting their problems solved because you showed up? Amen. That's a plug. And then how do you measure success? Attendance, people staying in the program, people having a better quality of life. Maybe you're doing weight loss, you're doing drug rehab. Did people become sober? Did their life become better because you helped them out? That's what you're looking for when you're developing a program. All right, fundraising strategies. Are grants your strategy, or is it your wish? Are you wishing for grants, or do you have a grant strategy? Because a lot of nonprofits depend solely on grants, and we're not in an economy right now where we can solely depend on grants. We also have to understand that you may apply for that grant in January. You may not hear about that grant till May, like if they approved it, and in June they'll vote on it, and then you may not even get your check until August or September. So are you potentially solely dependent upon grants, or do you have some type of strategy where you have individual donors supporting you, different types of events, sponsorships, and grants? And there's a little bit more to it when it comes down to a fundraising strategy, but you cannot solely depend on one thing. You have to fish. See my fish right here? My fish. You got to fish. You got to cast out that net. Okay? You got to go into the deep. All right. So at the end of the day, it is very necessary. It is very necessary that you have some type of strategy. You have something that's going to help you to move forward. All right. Then with the grant writing, when we talk about grant writing, excuse me, yes, this is the process of applying for funding from government agencies, private foundations, or other philanthropic organizations. So grants could be for a nonprofit, grants can fund a church, grants can fund small businesses, they can fund researchers. Um, there are times that even artists, there's like an artist grant. If you're like a performer and this is the thing that you do, you can apply for a grant as an individual. Okay. So you have to understand grants have criteria, they have guidelines that you have to follow. You have to understand, do you qualify for this grant? They may say, hey, you need to be in business for 3 years. You need to have financial records. You need to have a $1 million budget before we will even fund you. Okay. So if y'all have questions, please drop it in the chat because I promise you, I'm looking at my phone, looking at my TV, and I'm looking at Zoom too. All right, the common grant proposal elements. If you can do a program, you can do a grant proposal because your proposal is all about the program. So your executive summary that pretty much summarizes, it's like the abstract. It tells us what the grant proposal is about. The organizational information, this is the background information. This is the origin story. How did we get here? That's the story that we're talking about. The statement of need, kind of mentioned this when we talked about the problem. How do you know there's a problem in your community? How do you know what you're doing is necessary? Like let's say you live in the mountains, but you have a heart for the ocean. What are we talking about? Are you moving to the ocean? So you got to think about that. Then you got to think about your project description. You have to think about what are the key steps that you need to take. What's the activity plan? What's the curriculum? How is this program going to be set up? Who is going to do the work? How are they going to do the work? When are they going to do the work? Who is it going to benefit? That's always key. Who is it going to benefit? All right. And then how much is it going to cost? So your budget is always going to be crucial when it comes down to a grant. Most of the time, a funder, they're going to look at your budget first to see if you're crazy before they even read your grant. That's what grant reviewers do. We're going to look at your budget. And then your evaluation methods. Like, how do you know that you're being successful? Have you conducted any surveys? Have you done any assessments? Okay. And then sustainability plan. How do you plan to sustain this organization? Let's say, like I said, what if a funder gave you $100,000 and they said you got to spend this money within 1 year? What are you going to do the next year when you don't have $100,000? And some of these grants, you have to spend the money. You have to tap into that money right now. You just can't say, oh, I'm going to carry it over. No, this money has to be done by June 30th. Because most of your funders are going to be on June 30th timeframe. All right, so the top 10 reasons nonprofits get denied. You are not clear. Clearly, you don't know what you're talking about. You have a weak needs statement. You do not have measurable outcomes. You have a poor budget. You don't know how to budget. You don't know how to tell the story about the money and what the money is going to do and where it's going to go. Missing attachments. Some people don't have 501c3, the letter. Sometimes there's a lot of grants with the county and the city. They're going to ask you for proof of insurance. Do you have insurance with the nonprofit? Your board of directors may not be strong because you put your cousin and your mom and your uncle on there. That's not necessary. You need to put people on there that's serious about the work you're doing. You have no financials. You're just guessing. No strategic plan. You're applying for the wrong grant, meaning I'm in North Carolina and this grant is for Nebraska. I don't qualify. Even though it's the perfect grant for me, I don't qualify, okay? And then your organization is just not ready. You're not ready. You don't have the capacity. You don't have the team. And sometimes funders will fund you to get your capacity up. They will fund you to strengthen you in certain areas so that you will be ready for the money when it comes. So those are called capacity grants. So grant writing is not about begging or making people feel bad. You should not apply for a grant and start talking crazy about other organizations or about what they're not doing and how it'll be a problem if you don't if you don't fund this nonprofit. So you can't beg people for money. You can't. Grant writing, it's about relationships and strategy. You should be making an introduction. You should try to make an introduction to any funder that's local, that you can have a connection within the county government. There's a connection within the city, whatever it is or whatever it takes. If there's a board of director, if you can make an introduction, the more people that know about you, the greater chances you have when it comes down to you securing funding. Because if they feel like, oh my God, if we fund them, this is going to be amazing. This is going to be awesome. So you got to understand, at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're building relationships with funders. You're building these relationships and you're making sure that people know about the organization that you're serving. All right, we're almost done. Okay, grant writing tips. Research funding opportunities. Always, like I said, introduce your nonprofit to the grant manager. Read and follow the guidelines. It's just follow the leader. You got to figure out, do I qualify? Like, take time to really read about it. Write the proposal based on your program and keep reflecting it with data. All right. Proofread and edit the proposal. Attach supporting documents. Well, that could be the tax exempt letter. That could be financial statements, letters of support, or partnerships. Let's say I do have a partnership with a church. Somebody may say, hey, can this church write a letter on your behalf? Yes, because I have a partnership with them. And what does that partnership look like? Submit the proposal before the deadline. It's always key to get your grants in early. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Sometimes I will make it maybe a couple hours before, but that's Alana. Sometimes, yes, it is good to get it in early, but I need to do better. I prayed about that today. I need more discipline. Okay. It is okay to follow up with the funder, and it's okay to ask for feedback if you are rejected. A lot of times when grant reviewers, when we are looking at your grant, we have to provide feedback. We have to give comments. Is this a strong grant proposal? So it's really up to you to take time to ask, like, hey, can I see the notes? Can I see the notes? That's based on the organization that I'm serving. Can I see what we need to improve on? Can you meet with the program officer to see, like, hey, I didn't get this grant this year. Is it possible that we can sit down and see what I need to work on? There's nothing wrong with that. Also, 10-to-1 ratio. Apply for 10 grants and you may get one out of those 10. So people get really upset with grant writers because they're like, well, we applied for this one grant and you didn't get it. And you need to have your grant writer or whoever's on your team applying to multiple opportunities. Like I said, you got to fish, you got to cast the net out. All right. So think about a grant proposal like a resume. So a lot of times people will say, oh, you need to write this grant for me. No, technically your grant writer is applying for the grant for you. So what you're saying is the one thing you want to do is you want to have your grant proposal already put together. The first thing you should always do is have the proposal, the attachments, the photos, the videos, everything that makes it solid, like that puts everything down on paper. You need to do that first. Then you need to identify the grant opportunities, and then you need to apply. So like I said, it's like a resume. You're not going to write 20 resumes for 20 jobs. You're going to take that one resume and you're going to apply to multiple opportunities. So think about your grant proposal like that, and you're going to always keep updating it. All right. Can we use AI to create a grant proposal? I'm going to get there. So one thing I always tell people with AI, use AI as a tool, as a friend, but don't have AI to write the proposal for you. You should be able to think for yourself and put everything together. Like what I do with grant writing, when I'm training people, I will have a number of questions. I will ask this person, draft out all these questions, like the answers to these questions. And then I will say, you can upload this to AI and have AI to make it into a paragraph. It's still your words, it's still your intellect. But don't go to AI and say, hey, write me a youth development grant. That's not the case. AI needs a little bit more information. So use AI as a friend, like a golden girl. Thank you for being a friend. All right. For the the readiness assessment, you all should have received that today in your email. I will email that again, but with the assessment, just take the assessment because it's going to help you to understand, are you grant ready? Are you ready to apply for a grant? Is this something that you want to do? Okay. So when it comes down to the assessment, I will drop the link when I stop sharing. Your next steps. Are you ready to become grant ready? So you need to complete the assessment, identify your gaps, develop a grant strategy, learn how to write a winning proposal, and find the right grants for your organization. Like, you want to make sure like this is the best opportunity. And a lot of times when there is a funder, they will do an info session. They will do a meet and greet. They will do like a Zoom or a Teams, or, hey, we just want to go over the application. Please go to that. Even if you're on your phone or you have to tell somebody on your team, hey, log in for me so we can we can represent ourselves on this meeting, because sometimes they won't even send you the application if you're not on these meetings. So it's really important that you do this work. Okay. We're almost to the end. How to find grant funding. Philanthropy News Digest, they send out RFPs, requests for proposals, every day. Every day. I love it. Instrumental, this is a grant database. It is really awesome. It costs like $200 to like $200 a month, but it's really good. Foundation Directory Online, if you are near a local library, you will be able to go to your local library and look up funders that's funding nonprofits similar to yours. If you were to do this at home, that subscription would be between $200 to $300. It may have increased, but at the library, it's free. You just need a library card. One thing that I normally do when I'm interested in funding from a certain foundation, if they have an e-newsletter, I want to sign up, because a lot of times when they're trying to fund you, they are going to email their community first. And a lot of times you'll find out first from them about funding. And then the nonprofit association or consortium. So we have the Guilford Nonprofit Consortium. They send out grant alerts all the time. So, or be a part of this different communities that's posting grants. Word of mouth. I have a Facebook group that's called Faith and Funding Community for Nonprofit Leaders. And then my website, I'm always posting faithandfundingconsulting.com. I'm always posting blog updates. So I want to help you to win. So next week, I have a 3-week boot camp that's going to teach you how to write a grant proposal, how to find grants, how to apply for the grants. And you're going to be able to walk away with a completed proposal, but it's going to take you 3 weeks to complete this. The investment is $250, and we start June 15th, and we're going to end on June 29th, and you're going to submit your proposal, and we're going to work together, but you're going to work with a small group of people. So this will be the best way to learn how to write grants. I have been doing this boot camp, I'm going to say maybe 4 years. Yeah, 4 years I've been running this boot camp, and I have really seen a lot of success from this boot camp, from people, nonprofit leaders learning how to write grants. Well, yeah, learning how to write grants. I would definitely say that it is more cost effective when you know how to write and when you know how to apply and know how to use the tools, versus paying someone thousands of dollars to pretty much write the proposal and be on contract to work for you. Now, some people, it works for them like that. Now, some of us, we ain't got that type of budget. So you need to learn how to do this for yourself. So yes, I will drop this in the chat as well when it comes down to the grant writing boot camp. And that is it. So if anybody has any questions,